Daniel Brooks stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. The massive chamber stretched out before him like a cathedral built for giants. Above his head, holographic displays floated in the air, showing the faces of representatives from 47 different alien species. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some looked like they were made of living crystal. They all stared down at him with expressions he could not quite read. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Unity Council for 5 years now. In that time, he had learned to navigate the complex politics of a galaxy that had been united for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. He had made friends, built alliances, and worked hard to prove that humanity deserved a seat at this table. But now, looking at the cold faces around him, he realized all that work had been for nothing. High Chancellor Velnoth stood at the center podium. The ancient reptilian was over 300 years old, and his dark green scales had faded to a dull gray. His eyes were like yellow stones, hard and unforgiving. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. Ambassador Brooks, you and your species have been called before this council to answer serious charges. The time has come for judgment. Daniel felt his heart pounding in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Captain Megan Foster stood beside him, her military uniform crisp and perfect. She was the commander of humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, and she had come to support him during this hearing. On his other side was Kevin Torres, Earth's secondary diplomat. Kevin's hands were clenched into fists, but he too remained silent. The High Chancellor continued. Humanity has been part of this council for only 15 years. In that short time, you have caused nothing but trouble. You expand too quickly, colonizing new worlds without proper consultation. You conduct dangerous experiments with technologies you barely understand. Your culture spreads through council space like a virus, contaminating the peaceful traditions of species that have existed for millions of years. Daniel wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Everything Velnoth described was simply humans being humans. They explored because it was in their nature. They experimented because they wanted to learn. Their culture spread because other species found it interesting. But he knew that pointing this out would only make things worse. Arbiter Krasix, an insectoid judge with compound eyes that glittered like jewels, leaned forward. The council has reviewed the evidence. We have concluded that humanity poses a threat to galactic stability. Your emotional nature makes you unpredictable. Your individualism undermines our collective harmony. You advance too quickly and you refuse to accept the wisdom of elder species. Megan Foster whispered under her breath. They're afraid of us. She was right, Daniel realized. This was not about rules or safety. This was about fear. The council had existed for so long that it had become comfortable, stagnant even. Humanity's rapid progress threatened that comfort. The older species looked at humans and saw a mirror reflecting what they had lost, the drive and passion that had once pushed them to greatness. But understanding the truth did not change what was about to happen. The vote will now be taken, Velnoth announced. All those in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Unity Council, indicate now. Daniel watched as the display boards lit up one by one. Species after species voted against Earth. Some looked apologetic, others looked satisfied. A few seemed indifferent, as if they were voting on something as simple as lunch plans. When the final tally appeared, the numbers glowed in harsh red light. 39 species had voted to expel humanity. Only 8 had voted to let them stay. The chamber fell silent. Daniel felt Kevin Torres tense beside him and Megan Foster's jaw tightened. But Daniel himself felt strangely calm. Perhaps he had known this was coming all along. The decision is final, Velnoth declared. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Unity Council. All treaties are void. All trade agreements are terminated. All human embassies must be closed within 30 days. Furthermore, star charts showing the location of human space will be distributed to all council members and affiliated groups. Humanity will return to isolation. That last part was a threat, and everyone knew it. By giving away the location of Earth and its colonies, the council was essentially painting a target on humanity's back. Pirates, raiders, and hostile species would know exactly where to find them. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped forward. The High Chancellor frowned, clearly not expecting any response. But Daniel had not come all this way to leave in silence. High Chancellor, members of the Council, I accept your judgment. Humanity will leave this assembly as you have demanded. But I want you to remember this day. Remember that you had a chance to embrace something new, something different. You chose fear instead of hope. You chose stagnation instead of growth. Velnoth's eyes narrowed. You dare to lecture this council? I dare to speak the truth, Daniel replied. His voice was steady and clear. For thousands of years, this council has maintained peace through conformity. Every species that joins must become more like you, must give up the things that make them unique. You call it harmony. I call it surrender. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species looked offended, but others seemed uncertain. Daniel continued. Humanity will survive this. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived wars that nearly destroyed our world. We survived because we never gave up, because we adapted and changed and kept moving forward. You are expelling us because you think we are dangerous. But the truth is, you are afraid we will show the galaxy that your way is not the only way. Enough! Velnoth's voice boomed through the chamber. Remove them from this hall! Security drones began to move toward the human delegation, but Daniel was not finished. He looked around the chamber one last time, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as he could. We will remember this, he said quietly, and when you need us, when the comfortable galaxy you have built starts to crumble, remember that you were the ones who pushed us away. The drones escorted Daniel, Megan, and Kevin out of the chamber. Behind them, the council fell into heated debate, but the doors sealed shut before they could hear what was being said. In the corridor outside, Megan finally let her anger show. Those arrogant, self-righteous fossils, they just condemned us to die out here alone. Kevin nodded grimly. By tomorrow, every pirate gang and hostile faction in the galaxy will know where to find us. We have 12 colonies and maybe 50 decent warships. We cannot defend ourselves against a coordinated attack. But Daniel shook his head. They made a mistake today. They think isolation will destroy us. But isolation will make us stronger. When you have nothing to lose, you stop being afraid. And when you stop being afraid, you become dangerous. They walked through the station toward their ship, the last human vessel that would ever dock at the council's headquarters. Other diplomats and representatives they had worked with for years avoided making eye contact. Some looked ashamed, but none spoke up. On board their ship, Daniel sent a message back to Earth. He explained what had happened, the vote, the expulsion, the threats. He recommended that all human colonies go on high alert, and that the defense fleet be mobilized immediately. As their ship pulled away from the station, Megan stood beside him looking out the viewport. What do we do now? Daniel watched the massive structure of the council headquarters fade into the distance. We survive, we adapt. We show them what humanity is really capable of. They wanted us to fail, Megan. Let's prove them wrong. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, news of the expulsion spread throughout human space. Some people panicked, others grew angry, but most simply became more determined. Daniel received thousands of messages from citizens across all 12 colonies. They all said the same thing in different ways. We will not give up. When Daniel finally arrived on Earth, he was summoned immediately to Geneva, where the United Earth government had its headquarters. President Alex Warren met him in a secure conference room, along with Admiral Ryan Coleman, the commander of Earth's defense fleet, and Dr. Sophia Wright, the leading scientist in quantum physics. We are alone now, President Warren said simply. The question is, what do we do about it? Admiral Coleman brought up a holographic map showing human space. We have reports of 3 pirate raids already. They are testing our defenses, seeing how we will respond. It will get worse, Dr. Wright added. The Council's technology was always more advanced than ours. Without access to their research and trade networks, we are going to fall behind fast. Daniel looked at the worried faces around the table. Then he smiled. Good, they all stared at him. Good? The president repeated. Yes, good, Daniel said. For 15 years, we have been trying to fit into their system, follow their rules, become acceptable to them. Now we do not have to anymore. We can be ourselves. We can take risks they would never allow. We can innovate in ways that would terrify them. They took away our safety net, but they also took away our chains. Admiral Coleman slowly nodded. He is right. We have been holding back, trying not to offend anyone. Now we can fight our own way. And develop technology our own way, Dr. Wright added, excitement. 5 years had passed since the expulsion, and the galaxy had not been kind to humanity. Admiral Ryan Coleman stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Defiant, watching repair crews work on damage from the latest pirate attack. 3 ships had been lost this month alone, and nearly 200 people were dead. The names and faces haunted his dreams, but humanity had not broken. If anything, they had grown stronger. Coleman was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been a captain when the Council expelled Earth, commanding a small exploration vessel. Now he led the entire human defense fleet, such as it was, 48 warships of various sizes, scattered across 12 colony worlds and 1 home planet. It should have been impossible to defend such a large area with so few resources, but humans had learned to be creative. Admiral, incoming transmission from Freehaven Colony, his communications officer announced. It's Governor Pierce. He says it's urgent, Coleman sighed. Everything was urgent these days. Put him through. Nathan Pierce's face appeared on the main screen. The governor of humanity's furthest colony looked worried, which was concerning because Nathan rarely showed fear. Ryan, we have a situation. 3 ships just jumped into our system. They are not broadcasting identification codes. Pirates? Coleman asked, already signaling his fleet to prepare for departure. No, these are bigger, military-grade vessels. I think they might be Council observers, but they could also be something worse. Coleman felt his jaw tighten. Ever since the expulsion, the Council had declared several buffer zones around human space as contested territory. They claimed it was to protect their member species, but everyone knew the truth. They were squeezing humanity, testing to see how much pressure they could apply before humans collapsed. Hold your position. Do not fire unless fired upon. I am on my way with reinforcements. We will be ready, Nathan replied, and the transmission ended. Coleman turned to his crew. Set course for Freehaven. Maximum speed. Contact all nearby vessels and have them join us. As the Defiance engines powered up, Coleman thought about how much had changed in 5 years. When the Council first expelled them, many people had predicted humanity would not survive a year. Some colonies had even talked about surrendering, accepting protectorate status under one of the more sympathetic Council species. But then Daniel Brooks had given a speech that changed everything. They wanted us to fail, Brooks had said, his words broadcast to every human settlement. Let's prove them wrong, and they had. Oh, how they had. The real turning point came 2 years after the expulsion. Dr. Sophia Wright had been working on quantum slipstream technology, a theoretical way of traveling faster than light, without using the traditional jump gates that the Council controlled. Most scientists said it was impossible. The Council had tried to develop it for centuries without success. Sophia proved them wrong in 18 months. Coleman still remembered the day she had called him, her voice shaking with excitement. It works, Ryan. We can move faster than any Council ship. We don't need their gates anymore. The technology had changed everything. Human ships could now travel between colonies in days instead of weeks. They could respond to threats quickly, concentrate forces where needed, and retreat when outmatched. The pirates who had plagued them suddenly found that humans could chase them down and destroy them before they reached safety. But speed was only part of the equation. They also needed better weapons and defenses. That was where Jake Morrison came in. The engineer was a genius who had been working on shield technology. Traditional shields used a fixed frequency, which meant an enemy could eventually tune their weapons to penetrate them. Jake developed something different. Shields that constantly changed frequency, adapting to incoming fire in real time. The first time pirates encountered the new shields, they had fired everything they had at a human patrol ship. The ship's shields had simply absorbed the energy and converted it into power for their own weapons. The pirates never had a chance. Word spread quickly. Humans had become dangerous prey. The journey to Freehaven took only 6 hours with the new slipstream drives. By the time Coleman arrived, 5 more human ships had joined him. It was not a large force, but it was enough to make a statement. The 3 unknown vessels were holding position near Freehaven's orbital station. They were indeed Council ships bearing the markings of the Velcaran Federation, one of the more aggressive member species. Coleman opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Ryan Coleman of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in human territory. State your intentions. A Velcaran officer appeared on screen. His face was covered in thick fur and his eyes glowed with an orange light. We are conducting a survey of this region. The Council has determined that these buffer zones require monitoring. This is not a buffer zone, Coleman replied calmly. This is Freehaven Colony, sovereign human territory. You have no authority here. Humanity has no sovereign territory, the Velcaron sneered. You were expelled from the council. You exist here only because we allow it. Coleman felt his anger rising but kept his voice level. You have 10 minutes to leave this system. If you do not, we will consider your presence an act of aggression. The Velcaron laughed. You dare threaten us with your primitive fleet? We could destroy all of you in minutes. Maybe, Coleman admitted, but you would have to catch us first. And I guarantee that before you destroyed us, we would make sure at least one of your ships did not make it home. Are you willing to bet your life on that? The Velcaron's smile faded. He looked at something off-screen, probably checking the capabilities of the human ships. With the new slipstream drives, the humans could jump away instantly. And with their adaptive shields, they could survive long enough to inflict serious damage. After a long pause, the Velcaron officer spoke again. We will leave. But this is not over. The council will hear about this. Good, Coleman replied. Tell them humanity says hello. The 3 council ships turned and jumped away. On the bridge of the Defiant, Coleman's crew erupted in cheers. But Coleman himself did not celebrate. This was just one small victory in a conflict that could last for decades. Later that evening, Coleman met with his senior officers in the wardroom. Lisa Chen, his intelligence officer, had been monitoring council communications for months. She looked troubled as she presented her findings. Admiral, I have been analyzing patterns in council traffic. Something strange is happening. Several species are requesting increased military budgets. There are more fleet movements than usual, and I have intercepted at least a dozen coded messages that reference some kind of external threat. External? Captain Megan Foster, who had just arrived with 3 ships from Earth, leaned forward. You mean something from outside council space? Lisa nodded. I think so. But I cannot break the encryption. Whatever they are talking about, they are keeping it very secret. Could it be about us? One of the other officers asked. No, Lisa said firmly. These messages started before the expulsion, and the tone is wrong. They sound worried, maybe even scared. Coleman considered this information carefully. Keep monitoring. If the council is dealing with some kind of threat, we need to know about it. The meeting ended and Coleman returned to his quarters. He was exhausted, but before he could sleep, he received a priority message from Earth. Dr. Sophia Wright wanted to speak with him immediately. When her face appeared on his personal screen, she looked excited in a way that made Coleman nervous. Sophia only got that look when she had discovered something dangerous. Ryan, I need to show you something, she said without preamble. We picked up a signal. It is coming from beyond council space, from a region they call the Void Beyond. What kind of signal? A distress call. But Ryan, it is old. I mean really old. The technology used to broadcast it is unlike anything we have ever seen. It is more advanced than council technology by orders of magnitude. Coleman felt a chill run down his spine. How old are we talking? Millions of years. Maybe tens of millions. Sophia pulled up a star chart showing the signal's origin point. The council has declared this entire region off limits. No one goes there, ever. But we could reach it with our slipstream drives in about 3 weeks. Do you think we should investigate? Sophia was quiet for a moment. The council is hiding something, Ryan. Lisa is right about that. And I think whatever they are hiding is connected to this signal. If we want to survive in this galaxy, we need every advantage we can get. This might be our only chance to find something that could help us. Coleman knew she was right, but he also knew the risks. Sending a ship that far into unknown space was dangerous. They might never come back. I will talk to President Warren, he said finally. But if we do this, we need our best people on it. 2 weeks later, a specially modified exploration ship called Horizon's Edge departed from Earth. Captain Tyler Harrison commanded the vessel, with Dr. Hannah Mitchell as Chief Science Officer and Grace Bennett as Navigation Officer. They carried enough supplies for 6 months and enough firepower to fight their way out of most situations. As they prepared to jump into the void beyond, Tyler sent a final message to Coleman. We will find out what is out there, Admiral. Whatever it is, we will bring back answers. Coleman watched the ship disappear into slipstream space and felt the void beyond was living up to its name. Captain Tyler Harrison stared out the viewport of Horizon's Edge at the emptiness surrounding them. They had been traveling for 3 weeks, and in that time, they had not encountered a single planet, star system, or even an asteroid. Just darkness stretching in all directions. Are you sure we are going the right way? He asked Dr. Hannah Mitchell, who was hunched over her science station. Hannah did not look up from her displays. The signal is getting stronger. We are definitely getting closer. Tyler trusted Hannah completely. She was the best xenoarchaeologist humanity had, an expert in studying ancient alien civilizations. If anyone could figure out what they were heading toward, it was her. But even she looked nervous, which was saying something. Grace Bennett, their navigation officer, spoke up from her station. "Captain, I am reading something on long-range sensors. It is big. Really big." Tyler moved to her console and looked at the readings. His breath caught in his throat. The object they were approaching was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon, maybe larger. It was not a natural formation either. The structure was too perfect, too geometric. "What is it?" Lieutenant Brandon Cole asked. The security chief had been quiet during most of the journey, but now his hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm. "I don't know," Tyler admitted, "but we are about to find out. Hannah, start scanning. I want to know everything about that thing before we get too close." As they approached, details became clearer. The structure was made of some kind of dark metal that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Sections of it were covered in patterns that looked almost like writing, but the symbols were unlike anything in any known language database. Parts of the structure appeared damaged, with huge tears in the hull that suggested violence. "It is a space station," Hannah said, her voice filled with awe, "but it predates anything the Council has ever built. Captain, this thing is at least 3 million years old. Maybe older. Can we dock with it?" Tyler asked. Grace studied her navigation display. "There is a hangar bay on the southern section. It looks intact. I can get us in there." Tyler made a decision. They had come too far to turn back now. "Take us in slowly. Brandon, prep a security team. Hannah, you are with me. We are going aboard." The Horizon's edge glided into the hangar bay, which was large enough to hold 100 ships their size. Emergency lights flickered on as they entered, suggesting that some systems were still active after millions of years. That thought made Tyler both excited and nervous. They suited up and formed a boarding party. Tyler, Hannah, Brandon, and 4 security officers. They carried weapons and scanning equipment prepared for anything. As they stepped out of their ship and onto the ancient station, their boots echoed in the vast silence. "The atmosphere is breathable," Hannah reported, checking her readings. "Temperature is stable at about 20 degrees. Gravity is Earth normal. Someone designed this place with humanoid species in mind." They moved through corridors that stretched on forever. The walls were covered in those strange symbols, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Every so often they would pass rooms filled with equipment they could not identify. Some looked like computer systems. Others might have been weapons or power generators. It was impossible to tell. "This place is a museum," Hannah whispered. "Or maybe a library. There is so much knowledge here." After an hour of exploration, they found a central chamber. It was circular, with a raised platform in the middle. On the platform stood 3 tall structures that looked almost like statues. They were humanoid in shape but made of the same dark metal as the station itself. Each one was about 3 meters tall with smooth, featureless faces. "Are those robots?" one of the security officers asked. Hannah approached cautiously, her scanner working overtime. "I think they are more than that. These readings are incredible. There is energy flowing through them. They are not just machines. They are still active." As if responding to her words, one of the statues moved. Everyone jumped back, weapons raised, but the figure did not attack. Instead, it simply stepped down from the platform and faced them. Its head tilted slightly as if studying them. Then it spoke. The voice came from everywhere at once, resonating through the chamber. "Biological life forms detected. Species classification unknown. State your purpose." Tyler forced himself to stay calm. "We received a distress signal from this location. We came to investigate. Distress signal confirmed. This facility transmitted an automated alert 3,742,000 years ago. You are the first beings to respond." Hannah's eyes went wide. 3 million years? You have been waiting that long?" "Correct. We are the architects. We were the servants of the progenitor species. They created us to build and maintain their civilization, but they are gone now. What happened to them?" Tyler asked. The architect was silent for a moment, as if accessing ancient memories. "Civil War. The progenitors achieved perfection in technology, but they could not achieve perfection in themselves. They developed weapons of terrible power and used them against each other. In the end, they destroyed themselves completely. We could only watch. The weight of those words hung in the air. An entire civilization advanced beyond imagination had wiped itself out. It was a sobering thought. Before the end, the architect continued. They gave us one final command. We were to enter stasis and wait. They believed that someday another species would rise to take their place, a species that might succeed where they failed. Brandon spoke up. Why did you send a distress signal? Because something is coming. The same force that drove the progenitors to madness. We call it the swarm. Hannah stepped closer. What is the swarm? The architect's featureless face somehow managed to convey sadness, a hive mind entity from the darkness between galaxies. It consumes civilizations, absorbing their knowledge and resources. It feeds on advanced technology and complex thought. The more sophisticated a species becomes, the more attractive they are to the swarm. Tyler felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. Is the swarm headed toward council space? Yes, it moves slowly, but it never stops. We calculate it will reach the edge of your galaxy in 8 years. Once it arrives, it will consume every advanced civilization it encounters. The Galactic Council, with its concentration of developed species, will be its primary target. Why didn't the Council respond to your distress signal? Grace asked over the communication link from the ship. They did, the architect replied. Approximately 500 years ago, a Council expedition discovered this facility. We told them about the swarm, but they refused to believe us. They classified this region as forbidden and ordered all records of our existence to be sealed. They chose ignorance over preparation. Tyler exchanged glances with his team. That explained why the void beyond was off limits. The Council knew about the threat, but had decided to hide from it instead of facing it. Can the swarm be stopped? Tyler asked. It can be fought. The progenitors battled it for centuries before their civil war. But defeating the swarm requires technology that your species does not possess. However, we have access to the complete progenitor database. Weapons, ships, defensive systems, all the knowledge they accumulated over millions of years. Hannah could barely contain her excitement. You would share this with us? Only with you, the architect said. We have observed your species since you entered this facility. You are different from the Council species. You still possess the qualities that made the progenitors great before their fall. Curiosity, adaptability, and most importantly, the willingness to take risks. Tyler understood what the architect was offering. This was the advantage that Admiral Coleman had hoped for, the thing that could help humanity survive. But it came with a terrible price. If they accepted this knowledge, they would also accept the responsibility of fighting the swarm. We would need time to study this database, Tyler said. Time to build the weapons and ships we would need. We are aware of your species' capabilities. With our assistance, you could be ready in 7 years. But understand this. The swarm does not negotiate. It does not retreat. Once it begins its assault, entire civilizations will fall in weeks. The Council is not prepared. They do not believe the threat is real. If humanity does not act, no one will. Brandon stepped forward. Captain, this is bigger than we are. We need to report back to Earth immediately. Tyler nodded. Agreed. But first, we need to bring back proof. He turned to the architect. Can you provide us with data? Something that will convince our leaders that the swarm is real? Yes. We will transfer all available information about the swarm's previous attacks, its capabilities, and its projected arrival time. We will also include detailed scans of the progenitor technology. But you must hurry. The swarm's advanced scouts may already be entering this galaxy. Over the next several hours, Hannah worked with the architects to download massive amounts of data. The information was staggering. Battle reports from conflicts millions of years ago, sensor readings of swarm vessels, tactical analysis of their strategies, and most terrifying of all, recordings of worlds being consumed, entire populations absorbed into the hive mind. As they prepared to leave, the architect spoke one final time. We have... Daniel Brooks had not expected to see the inside of the Grand Assembly Hall ever again. Yet here he stood, 5 years after his expulsion, surrounded by the same holographic displays showing the same 47 alien species. High Chancellor Velnoth occupied the central podium, looking just as arrogant as he had the day he kicked humanity out. But this time, Daniel was not here to defend Earth, he was here to save everyone. Members of the Council, Daniel began, his voice steady and clear. I have returned with information of critical importance. A threat is approaching this galaxy that will destroy us all if we do not act. Velnoth's yellow eyes narrowed. We did not invite you here, human. You have no right to address this council. I have every right, Daniel replied. Because unlike you, I actually care about the survival of every species in this chamber. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species looked curious, others offended. But Daniel had their attention, and that was what mattered. He activated a holographic display showing the data from the architects. Images appeared in the air, sensor readings of massive vessels unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. Battle scenes from millions of years ago. Entire planets stripped of all life, leaving only barren rock behind. This is the Swarm, Daniel explained. A hive-mind entity that feeds on advanced civilizations. It has destroyed countless species throughout the universe, and it is heading toward Council space right now. It will arrive in 8 years. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives shouted questions, some in languages Daniel did not understand. Velnoth hammered his podium for silence. Preposterous, the High Chancellor declared. This is obviously a fabrication designed to frighten us. It is not fabricated, Daniel said firmly. My people discovered an ancient facility in the void beyond. The beings there, called architects, have been waiting for millions of years to warn whoever would listen. You already know about them. A council expedition found them 500 years ago. That caused more commotion. Velnoth's scales seemed to darken with anger. The void beyond is forbidden territory for good reason. Whatever your people found there is irrelevant. Daniel felt his frustration growing. You mean you found it first and chose to hide it? You knew about the swarm, you knew it was coming, and instead of preparing, you buried the information and hoped it would go away. Enough, Velnoth roared. We will not be lectured by a species that barely understands space travel. You come here with ancient fairy tales and expect us to panic. The Council has existed for thousands of years. We have faced threats before and survived them all. Councillor Threnix, a younger member from a species that resembled crystalline birds, spoke up. High Chancellor, perhaps we should examine this evidence before dismissing it. The human's data appears legitimate. The data proves nothing, Velnoth snapped. Humans have been developing new technologies since their expulsion. They could have faked all of this to trick their way back into the Council. Daniel looked around the chamber, seeing the doubt on so many faces. They did not want to believe him. Not because the evidence was weak, but because accepting it would mean admitting they were afraid. It would mean acknowledging that their comfortable, ordered galaxy was about to end. I am not asking to rejoin your council, Daniel said quietly. I am asking you to prepare for what is coming. Share the information with your military forces. Start building defenses. Work together to develop weapons that can fight the swarm. Arbiter Krazix, the insectoid judge, leaned forward. And why would you help us? We expelled your species. We gave away the location of your worlds to anyone who wanted to attack you. Why would you warn us of danger? Daniel met the Arbiter's compound eyes steadily. Because it is the right thing to do. Because despite everything you did to us, we do not want to see billions of innocent people die. Because humanity learned a long time ago that survival depends on cooperation, not isolation. The chamber fell silent. For a moment Daniel thought he might have gotten through to them. Then Velnoth spoke again, and his voice was like ice. This council does not need advice from expelled species. We certainly do not need protection from primitive humans. Your so-called evidence is rejected. This assembly is dismissed. Wait, Threnix protested. We should at least investigate these claims. The decision is made, Velnoth said with finality. Furthermore, if humans are discovered in council space again without authorization, we will consider it an act of aggression. You have been warned, Ambassador Brooks. Now leave before we have you arrested. Daniel stood there for a long moment looking at the faces around him. Some looked apologetic like Threnix. Others seemed satisfied, as if he had confirmed their belief that humans were liars and troublemakers. But most just looked indifferent, already moving on to other concerns. He had tried. He had done everything he could, and it had not been enough. Then I hope you remember this day, Daniel said softly. When the swarm arrives and your perfect council starts to fall apart, remember that someone tried to warn you. Remember that you chose pride over survival. Security drones escorted him from the chamber. As the doors sealed behind him, he could hear the council moving on to other business as if nothing important had just happened. The galaxy's impending doom was not even worth a full discussion. On the journey back to Earth, Daniel sent a secure transmission to President Alex Warren. They refused to listen. "We are on our own." The response came quickly. "Then we prepare alone. Come home, Daniel. We have work to do." When Daniel arrived on Earth 3 days later, he found a world transformed. The peaceful cities he remembered were now centers of industry. Shipyards had been built in orbit, massive structures churning out vessels at an incredible rate. Every colony in human space was doing the same, dedicating all their resources to Project Vanguard, the desperate plan to prepare for war. President Warren met him in the same Geneva conference room where they had talked 5 years ago. But this time the mood was different. There was no uncertainty, no fear, just grim determination. "How many did you convince?" Warren asked. "None," Daniel admitted.
Velnoth shut me down before I could make any real arguments.
A few seemed interested, like Counselor Threnix, but they were outvoted. Admiral Ryan Coleman, who had aged noticeably in the past years, shook his head. "Fools, every one of them. They would rather die than admit they were wrong about us." Dr. Sophia Wright brought up a holographic display showing humanity's progress. "We have been working with the Architect database for 6 months now. The technology is incredible, but also incredibly complex. It will take us years to fully understand it, much less manufacture it." "How many years?" Warren asked. 7, maybe 8 if we run into complications." Sophia looked apologetic. "I know that does not leave much margin for error." Tyler Harrison, who had been promoted to Commodore after his discovery, spoke up. "The architects are helping us. They have reactivated some of their automated factories. We can build progenitor-designed ships there, which will give us a head start." "How many ships can we build in 7 years?" Warren asked. "If we dedicate every resource? If every colony contributes everything they have?" Admiral Coleman studied the projections. "Maybe 200 capital ships with architect technology. Another 500 with our own upgraded designs. It is not enough to defend the entire galaxy, but it might be enough to defend human space and provide support where it is needed most." "Then that is what we do," Warren decided. "Daniel, I want you to reach out quietly to any council species that might listen. Do not go through official channels. Find individuals who will take the threat seriously." Daniel nodded. Threnix seemed genuinely concerned. "There might be others." "Good, because when the swarm arrives, the council is going to fracture. Some species will fight. Others will try to run, and many will simply collapse. We need allies who will stand with us when that happens." The months turned into years. Every human settlement became part of the war effort. Children learned military tactics in school. Scientists worked around the clock developing new weapons. Engineers transformed peaceful colonies into fortress worlds. Captain Megan Foster, now an admiral herself, oversaw the construction of humanity's new fleet. She personally inspected every ship, making sure they met the standards necessary to fight an enemy that had destroyed civilizations for millions of years. Dr. Sophia Wright led teams that worked directly with the architects, slowly unlocking the secrets of progenitor technology. They learned to build shields that could withstand incredible punishment. They developed weapons that could tear through the swarm's biomechanical armor. They created sensors that could detect hive mind communications, and they trained. Every human capable of fighting learned how to operate the new weapons, how to coordinate in large-scale battles, how to adapt when plans failed. Because plans always failed in war. 3 years before the swarm's predicted arrival, Lisa Chen intercepted a council transmission that made her blood run cold. A remote outpost near the edge of council space had gone silent. When a patrol ship investigated, they found the station completely empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just silence. She brought the information to Admiral Coleman immediately. "It has started. The swarm's advanced scouts are already here." The swarm arrived exactly when the architects had predicted. Not with warnings or negotiations, but with overwhelming violence that made the galaxy scream. Admiral Ryan Coleman watched the sensor displays with growing horror as the first reports came in. 3 council species had been attacked simultaneously. Their homeworlds simply went dark, all communications ending in seconds. Rescue ships that arrived found planets stripped of all life, the very atmosphere consumed. Billions dead in the time it took to blink. "They are not even trying to be subtle," Captain Megan Foster said from her position at the tactical station. She commanded one of the human fleet's elite strike wings now. 50 ships equipped with the most advanced architect technology humanity could build. Coleman nodded grimly. "They don't need to be. They know the council is not ready." Over the next week, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The swarm did not attack like a conventional enemy. They did not conquer territory or establish supply lines. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on. Their ships were massive biomechanical constructs that seemed to grow and evolve as they fed. Weapons that worked once might be useless the next time. The Council's response was chaos. Some species tried to fight and were destroyed. Others fled their home worlds, becoming refugees with nowhere to go. The carefully maintained order that had existed for thousands of years collapsed in days. High Chancellor Velnoth finally broke his silence, sending a galaxy-wide transmission that was equal parts plea and denial. The Council is mobilizing all available forces to meet this threat. Citizens should remain calm. The situation is under control. But everyone knew it was a lie. The situation was not under control. The swarm was spreading like wildfire through Council space, and nothing the ancient species tried seemed to slow them down. On the 8th day, a heavily damaged Council ship limped into human space. It was a Velcaron vessel, the same species that had threatened Freehaven Colony years ago. Admiral Coleman allowed them to dock for repairs, and the ship's captain requested an audience. The Velcaron officer looked broken, his orange eyes dim with exhaustion and fear. "Admiral Coleman, I come with a message from High Chancellor Velnoth." He paused as if the next words caused him physical pain. "The Council requests Earth's assistance. Please help us." Coleman felt no satisfaction in hearing those words. He had been right, they had all been right, but that victory was hollow now. Billions were already dead. "What about our warning? The one you all ignored?" "We were fools," the Velcaron admitted. "Arrogant fools who thought we knew better. Now entire civilizations are dying because of our pride." Coleman was quiet for a long moment. Part of him wanted to refuse, to let the Council face the consequences of their choices. But he thought about all those innocent people, the billions who had no say in the Council's decisions. And he thought about what Daniel Brooks had said years ago. Despite everything, humanity did not want to see people die. "Tell the High Chancellor we will come," Coleman finally said, "but we do it our way, with our tactics and our command structure. If he wants our help, he accepts our terms." The Velcaron bowed his head. "Thank you, Admiral. We do not deserve your mercy." "No," Coleman agreed. "You don't, but we are not doing this for you. We are doing it for everyone who will die if we do nothing." Within hours, the human fleet mobilized. 200 capital ships built with architect technology, supported by 500 more carrying upgraded human weapons. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Every ship carried crews who had trained for years for this moment. President Alex Warren gave a speech that was broadcast to every human settlement. "Today we go to fight for people who cast us aside. We do this not because they deserve it, but because it is right. We are humanity. We do not abandon others to die, no matter what they have done to us. Show the galaxy what we are capable of." The human fleet jumped into Council space and found a nightmare. Swarm vessels, massive things that looked like they were made of black metal and organic tissue fused together, were everywhere. They moved in coordinated patterns, their hive mind allowing perfect coordination. Council fleets that tried to stand against them were torn apart. Coleman's fleet arrived at the threshold sector, just as another species faced annihilation. The Reptilian Cross, one of the oldest Council members, had made a desperate last stand around their home world. 50 of their best ships against 300 swarm vessels. It should have been a massacre. Then humanity arrived. "All ships engage at will," Coleman ordered. "Remember your training. Adapt and overcome." The human ships dove into the battle with precision that shocked the Cross defenders. Unlike Council vessels that tried to fight the swarm head-on, human ships used hit-and-run tactics. They would strike, then jump away before the swarm could adapt. Their shields constantly changed frequency, making it impossible for swarm weapons to find an effective setting, and the weapons themselves were devastating. Quantum disruption torpedoes that tore holes in space-time, plasma beams that burned at temperatures hot enough to vaporize matter, railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. Every weapon had been designed specifically to counter swarm biology. For the first time since the invasion began, swarm vessels started dying. Captain Megan Foster led her strike wing in a daring assault on a swarm command ship. These massive vessels coordinated entire battle groups, and destroying them could throw swarm tactics into chaos. Her ships jumped in close, too close for capital weapons to track, and unleashed everything they had. The command ship's biomechanical hull began to rupture. But instead of retreating, Foster pressed the attack. All ships target the central core. If we can destroy their coordination center, the other swarm ships will lose cohesion. Her wingmates followed without hesitation. They poured fire into the wound they had created, diving deeper into the enemy vessel. It was insane, reckless, and completely effective. The command ship exploded from within, and immediately the surrounding swarm vessels began moving erratically, their perfect coordination broken. "That is how you do it," Foster shouted over the communication channel. "Find the command ships and take them out." The battle raged for 3 days. More human ships arrived as word spread of the counterattack. Counselor Threnix brought a fleet from his species as promised. Other council members who had secretly prepared began to join the fight. The tide was slowly turning, but the cost was terrible. Thousands of human lives were lost. Ships that had taken years to build were destroyed in seconds. But for every loss, they inflicted far greater damage on the swarm. The enemy was learning that humanity was not easy prey. Dr. Sophia Wright worked around the clock aboard Coleman's flagship, analyzing swarm behavior and developing new countermeasures. She discovered that while the swarm was incredibly adaptive, they had one critical weakness. Their hive mind was efficient but also vulnerable. If you could disrupt their communications, entire fleets would lose coordination. "I can build a quantum resonance weapon," she told Coleman during a brief lull in the fighting. "It will broadcast a signal that interferes with their hive mind. But someone needs to get it to the center of their main fleet and activate it manually." "How close?" Coleman asked. "Inside their command cluster. Basically a suicide mission." Coleman was about to volunteer when Captain Tyler Harrison's face appeared on screen. "I will do it. The architects have been teaching me about their technology. If anyone can get in there and come back out, it is me." "Tyler, you don't have to," Coleman protested. "Yes, I do. This is what we prepared for. This is why we found the architects in the first place." Tyler smiled. "Besides, I have a good feeling about this." The plan was desperate, but it was all they had. Tyler took a small, fast ship loaded with Sophia's weapon and dove into the heart of the swarm fleet. Behind him, every human and allied vessel provided covering fire, sacrificing themselves to give him a chance. Tyler's ship was hit multiple times, shields failing, hull breaching, but he kept going. He had come too far, humanity had come too far to fail now. As his ship finally reached the center of the enemy formation, he activated the quantum resonance weapon. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The hive mind signal that coordinated millions of swarm vessels suddenly shattered. Ships that had moved with perfect precision began crashing into each other. Command ships lost control of their battle groups. The unstoppable force became a confused mob. "Now," Coleman ordered. "All ships, press the attack. Destroy them while they are disorganized." The combined fleet surged forward. Human weapons, council weapons, and ancient architect technology all focused on the paralyzed enemy. Swarm vessels that had seemed invincible hours ago now died by the hundreds. The nightmare that had consumed countless civilizations was finally bleeding. But there was no word from Tyler Harrison. Just as Coleman was about to order a retreat, a signal appeared on sensors. A small ship, heavily damaged but still flying, emerged from the chaos. It was Tyler, somehow still alive. "Sorry for the delay." Tyler's voice came through crackling with static. "I had to make a few modifications to get the ship working again. The architects helped. They are very good at remote repair work." The battle ended not with a bang but with a whimper. The swarm faced